describe your product mindset?
Oh, that's a good question. My product mindset is curiosity. I'm very, very, very curious to understand what we're building, how are people using it, and what can we do a little bit better. So curiosity from the understanding of how people experience our product, and also curiosity from, what can we do to make it better for people to use. And also one more thing is that I love taking people on a journey. So I love people feeling like they're a part of the decision making, or actually part of understanding that they don't feel that it's always someone in a leadership position that gets to make decisions. So yeah, I like that.
And when you look at your product management career, what is a thing that an achievement that you're particularly proud of?
I am particularly proud of the work that I did at my last role at Penta. Why? Because it was my first time working in a startup, and I had to really think about how I was going to work with the team, sort of having a more corporate background and understanding how to bring sort of the energy and enthusiasm and chaos of a startup together with sort of the predictability and sort of like a humming engine. So how do you bring all of those things together without killing creativity? So I'm really proud because I learned a lot during that journey, during those 20-something months. I learned a lot, but I think also at the same time I just became a better leader and a much better person.
And when you think about all the assumptions that you had at the beginning of the product management career and along the path and the evolution, what are some aha moments that you encountered?
I love that question. I think from the perspective of aha moments, it was the understanding that when things go wrong, it's important not to focus on the wrong, but focus on the lesson that is telling you. So less finger pointing leads to a much happier team. So I think I've worked in teams where there's been a lot of finger pointing, so people are very defensive. And then I've also worked in teams where that's not the case. And I learned that very early on in my career, that actually it's about bringing people together and learning. And mistakes are fine, right? So making sure you have an environment where you can make mistakes, but how do we learn from those mistakes, and how do we get better?
If you have a close friend that would want to start a career in product management, what would be a piece of advice that you'd want to share?
We need you. Get into it. Do it. Product needs people from all over the world, from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of experiences. I think what I see a lot is people who are not in tech think, oh, I can never be in product because I've never had experience. But, I think that most people can get into product and pick it up from, getting into a role and actually growing within that space. So if I had some advice, I would say just jump into the deep end and just do it. Yeah.
Product managers are always naturally curious and always learning and reading. What are some of the go-to resources for you to keep on learning and continuously develop your knowledge?
So there's one book that I am so in love with called Strong Product People by Petra Ville. I love that book because it's very, very practical. So it's more focused on people who are maybe leaders or people who are going to get into a leadership position. But what I love about that book is that it's a book you can keep going back to over and over again. She provides amazing templates, and she also talks about a lot of issues that companies have across the board, so that you don't feel so alone. So I remember reading that book and just feeling like, oh, I've had that, oh, I've experienced that. So I didn't feel like I was just making mistakes on my own, but rather actually this is not specific to me. And then Twitter actually is a great source of learning. So I've learned a huge amount from Twitter. So I was normally on Twitter to complain to service providers like airlines. But now I've widened my horizons and I've actually started to follow a lot of product Twitter accounts, and I have learned so much from Twitter threads. It is actually pretty unbelievable. And I found people who are all over the world who now I speak to on a one-to-one basis, bouncing ideas. So I think also having people who have a different perspective has also been great. So those two things for me. So, I mean, obviously there are lots of other books, but Twitter is a wealth of information. You'd be so surprised.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
I know that you talked about it on stage, but let's dive into it a bit deeper. What are some of the apps and products that you absolutely enjoy using in your personal life?
Ooh, okay. So the first one, like I said, is Flow. So this is for women, Flow's for women. So obviously it tracks your period. So I understand how I'm feeling on certain times, and maybe there's certain things I should avoid doing. So Flow really helps with that. Helps me always to feel prepared and like I'm in control in a way. And then obviously WhatsApp, I have a family that's all over the world, and I love talking to them. I love connecting with them, sending videos, sending photos. So, you know, I really, really love using WhatsApp. And then from a finance perspective, I did speak about Revolut because of the flexibility with the currencies. So I think for me, that's something that's very important that, you know, if I use my card in South Africa, it uses the Rand account and it just figures out where I am, as long as I top it up, of course, and it's got money, right? Because it doesn't just like, yeah, you could just use it with no money. But, you know, I really like that. And then in Zimbabwe, I use, it's actually a telecoms provider called Econet, and they have a mobile money application. So you can send money to anyone, really. So I like using that because it's also very, very convenient for me when I'm home.
What is a message that you'd want to share with the product community in Timișoara and in Romania in general?
What would I like to share? Oh, please invite me to things so that I can come back. So that I can come back to Timișoara. But I think I would just say, you know, we have so many resources that it's a global career. So, you know, just to really look for people all over the world to connect with, and not just to connect with, you know, these authors that seem very, very far away, but connect with peers from all over the world. So there are a lot of, and I think this is one thing that the pandemic gave us, but a lot of things moved online, right? So now we have a lot of things that are hybrid or things that are online, so online webinars. So I would really encourage people to connect with each other all around the world and learn from each other. So I know that, for example, I've had people from all over the world contact me, please can you be my mentor, right? And I've learned so much from people who are in places that I've never been to. So actually they think they're learning from me, but I'm learning a huge amount also from them. So just to embrace this global community that we're in, and you will find that we're much closer to each other than we are further.